What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to another episode of Ramblin Radio, episode number 87. It's been a minute since we've uploaded a podcast. A lot has been going on behind the scenes, but we're starting to ramp up the content again very soon. I'm going to update you guys on everything. But today we've got a very special podcast. We've got an amazing guest. We've got Josh Landon on the podcast today. He is a serial entrepreneur, started in filmmaking, which is really fascinating. He worked on a ton of skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding documentaries, and has transitioned into this new role of his, serial entrepreneur and business owner. And he's got some incredible experience. He somewhat recently sold his first company, Saint Archer, for nearly $100 million, and now he's working on Ashland Hard Seltzer, which is his new focus, and he's got about 5 other companies as well. But he is the definition of a serial entrepreneur, and I think this is going to be a extremely refreshing episode. At least it was for me. It was a fantastic reminder that there is no one way to do it. You really, truly can create your own path and do it in a way that works for you. There's a lot of minutia, a lot of fluff content that's thrown around on social media, and I'm sure you're aware of it. And a lot of this information kind of turns into an entrepreneurial flex in a way, where this info, some of it's good, some of it's positive, some of it is truly trying to benefit you, but some of it, there's kind of that toxic side where it's really just a flex, and people are just posting about it because it makes them look good. Look how many business books I have read. Look at how smart I am. And Josh Landon hasn't read one business book, and he's more successful than most of the people on this planet. So this is just going to be a fantastic conversation. I think you're going to learn a lot, and again, it's just going to be a really nice, refreshing reminder for you. So enjoy the podcast episode. Before we get into it, really quick, I am starting a new little series where I want to get you guys involved in this podcast. If you have a question for me where you think I can benefit you in your creative business with any type of business advice or relationship or creative, anything that you can think of that you think this podcast will benefit you in a way, send me a text message with your question at 847-383-7661. And if I like your question, I'm going to feature it, and I'm going to feature you on this podcast. So that's 847-383-7661. I'll put it on the screen here. If you got a question for me and you need assistance with a certain topic, send me a text message and I'll feature you on the podcast and answer your question. That's it. Enjoy today's episode with Josh Landon, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Just from doing a little background research, it sounds like you started these companies. I feel like you're starting them left and right. Like you start them and then they sell maybe 2 years, 11 months down the road, and it's super quick. Is this a record speed? Because for me, when you hear about these companies getting started, it takes a long time. And I believe you sold Saint Archer, and it took like 2 years, correct? Or
2 years, yep.
Yeah. And then Ashland was 11 months.
It would have been. Ultimately, we decided to kind of wait on the deal, pause, and I think build the company a little bit more. And Anheuser-Busch and I we were kind of at the 1 yard line, and I think there's just some things that I want to do. I've been through this before, so I think I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want, and in the end, it just wasn't the right time. And ultimately, I think it will be the right time. Just maybe 6 months down the road, a year down the road. But yeah, I think it was best to just kind of keep going and see what happens here. Like you said, we're only 11 months old, so it was hard for me to really know what to put the brand. And we'd only done one capital raise, so there was definitely plenty of runway to keep going. We were only sold in 2 counties. So I think in the end, having been through it before, like I said, knowing what you want and don't want is an important part of the puzzle, right? And so I think ultimately it'll work out. But
so you haven't sold it yet. Gotcha.
Still going. Still going.
Okay. So is 2 years then getting back to Saint Archer? Is that that's pretty quick? 2 years.
I mean, ultimately, in Ashland, had I not decided to, not do it, a year would have been, I've never heard of that, I've never heard of 2 years. I've never heard of 2 years in the alcohol business. Maybe there's like some tech companies and things like that have sold really quickly. But in consumer facing products, you're talking 5 to 10 years, I say would probably be the average. And 5 years would be really fast.
Okay. Well, obviously you've got some sort of formula working, and you got it in. You've become, I would say, you're the definition of a serial entrepreneur. I'm curious. I would like to take my audience kind of through that story, and I know you've told this story probably 100,000 times.
I'm ready for it.
Okay. So I would love to kind of take it back and really understand kind of what builds a serial entrepreneur. Is that something that you're born with? Is that just a product of your environment? I know you were a filmmaker as well, so I want to talk a little bit about that too, because I'm a previous filmmaker, photographer myself. So if we could take it back to childhood, school, what was your upbringing like? Let's start from the beginning.
I grew up in Ventura, just south of Santa Barbara here in Southern California. And kind of I was an only child. My parents got divorced when I was young, three or four, and lived a middle class life. Both my parents worked, and I think in a lot of ways, when you're an only child, you're either really spoiled or really independent, and I was really independent. And I was always, getting myself to and from places. And my mom was always around and doing things for me, even though she was working full time. There was just no choice. But typical, played sports. And it was fun to grow up in the 90s, man. I'm a huge sports fan. And what better than to grow up with Michael Jordan? I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan, actually.
Got you.
Massive. It's a lot of ways it hasn't been healthy all these years. But and my mom, like I said, my mom, I guess in her own way, is pretty entrepreneurial. She's had multiple different careers, and then when I was right around 5 or 6, she decided to put herself through law school, and she became an attorney and ultimately had her own practice. And that was later in life, north of 40. And, I think for me, I just didn't like school. I think for me, it's always been about being interested. I was just bored, school's boring. And so I was bored and didn't really, I did okay enough to get by, I think college was something I thought I was going to do just because that's what everybody does. And as I got to my senior year of high school, I was like, I really have not a ton of interest in going to college. And is when I kind of started falling in love with surf films. growing up near the beach and starting to surf more. And I mean, once you kind of realize you're not going to be a pro surfer, the next best thing is like the surf films. And Taylor Steele, who's a surf filmmaker, famous surf filmmaker from San Diego down here, became my hero. And eventually started making my own films, which was pretty crazy to think, that was kind of the career path. I started like doing it, making my own movies and documentaries, and, started winning a lot of film festivals, and, was directing music videos after that in LA, which was an interesting place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And not really for me, but so yeah, I mean, I was doing it. I was like a working filmmaker. My wife and I, we've been together since high school, and I was supporting us. We got married pretty young, 24, and was supporting us. So I mean, as a filmmaker, that's not easy to do. It's not easy to be like a filmmaker as a career. It's tough. So yeah, man, it was good. It was good. Saint Archer kind of everything.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Getting back to school, other than it being boring, why did you not like it so much? Was it your group, your circle of friends at the time? Were you just not connecting with people? I just listening to your story, it's just it reminds me of kind of my upbringing, and I was a single kid, no brothers or sisters, and I did not have a good college experience. Did you? I kind of missed it. Did you go to college or no? Did you decide not to?
I did not.
You did not.
Mm-mm.
What kind of circles did you have friends wise in high school? Did that lead to you not liking school, or because I know you played sports?
I did. No, I just was never that interested. I never was I didn't get in trouble as a kid. I was a good kid. I was really interested in sports, and just I've always had a problem, like, keeping my attention, ADD, and I still have it. Right. I think in today's world, like fucking everybody has it with the phones and all this bullshit, but
TikTok's bad.
Yeah. Man. It's just ridiculous now. Right. Like every kid is screwed basically from an attention span perspective. But I always struggled with that, but I think ultimately I just didn't care. I would kind of, I did it so I could play sports. But ultimately I had, like I said, I had a great high school experience. I mean, I had my girlfriend at the time, obviously later wife, was the captain of the cheerleaders, and I was a water polo player and won homecoming, and like we had like typical perfect. Kind of typical kind of high school. Just academically, I think I just was never interested. Like nobody from our graduating class would have said, Josh Landon, that's going to be the guy who like does something with us. So like, there's no fucking winner. Chance, man. No one would have said that. Which rightfully so. There was not much to say, I realized early on through a lot of my classes, I'd be sitting there like in geometry or algebra 2 or whatever and going, I'm never going to use any of this shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be a builder, in chemistry. I don't want to be a scientist. I don't want to be like, right. But then the classes I would excel in would be like US history or world history or, things that when I would hear it and listen to the stories, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
I would always do well in those classes. I just would never do the homework, but when it came time to do the tests, I would always do well because I would remember everything that I enjoyed listening to.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just never understood. I didn't agree with it. Like I still don't agree with the things that are taught in school. And I don't think they're giving kids tools to be successful adults in the workforce. They're just, unless you're going to law school or medical school or, very specific things like that. Like, dude, what are you getting out of high school? Like, what are you getting out of learning geometry?
Right.
Nothing.
It's a pretty outdated system, isn't it?
It's very outdated. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So you decided not to go to school. For me, the only reason why I went to school really was because all my friends were doing it. And I didn't know at that point in time, I didn't know
Of
who I
course.
was, what the fuck I wanted to do. So I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
great.
Yep.
So you didn't go to school. Why did you not go to school? Were your friends going to school too? And you were just like, fuck
Oh yeah.
that. And you
Yep.
wanted to do your own thing, and you kind of had that somewhat of a vision of what you wanted to do, or were you still trying to figure shit out at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been one to say, like, in regards to what I choose to do with my career, I've never been one to say, oh, well, everybody's going to school, I probably should.
Yeah.
I've never like, I wanted to make films and I didn't really give a shit what everybody else was doing, and in a lot of ways, I kind of missed that I didn't go to college. I got to travel and film some of the best surfers in the world. But there's things about college that seem really exciting, that are just, they seem pretty cool, I think that I missed all that, which is okay. My wife went to San Diego State, so I got little glimpses of it, and our friends were at college. So I'd go up there and we'd party with them and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I would have never made it through, man. I would have never made it, would not have happened. Right. So it's like, I have a lot of sympathy for my kids doing these Zooms. Cause I'm like, dude, I can tell you right now that your dad, no chance in hell would have ever done these Zoom calls.
Yeah.
There's no like you guys are doing them cause I'm your dad and you're doing it. But like, I would have got straight F's. And so I think, but I knew early on, I didn't care what everybody else was doing. And a lot of people were like, you're making surf films? Like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
And the only people that didn't say that to me were, Janine and my mom, which really like kind of the two most important ones to, Janine to this day through Saint Archer and through all of the businesses I've created has never said, what if it doesn't work out, or, what are we going to do if this happens or that happens? And obviously that was a huge support, but starting with my mom from an early age, and my mom is like the exact opposite of me, right? She's had different careers. My mom's Ivy League educated, never got a B in her entire life at any level of school, right? She was a teacher, so here's me, right, comes along and goes, fuck school, this is ridiculous. She's like, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
Right. But for her to never, she used to always say, yeah, you could do whatever you want. Like, you could be whatever you want to be. And I actually believed her. Obviously if I wanted to be in the NBA, I was like, well, chances are I'm not going to be a 6'6" 2 guard, but like everything else that doesn't require physical ability, do it. And I believed her.
Or maybe a coach, maybe a basketball coach or something connected.
I was a water polo coach.
Oh, there you go.
A water polo coach. Yeah. I played water polo throughout high school. And then I coached water polo for 2 years at my high school. And I loved it. To be honest, that's one of the things, the funny things is like, that's never come up in any of these podcasts or any of the interviews I've done through the years. I would have been a coach, man.
Really?
I still think about it. Yeah. And It's funny because people will say to me, like, what skills did you take from filmmaking and into the businesses? And like, fuck, nothing really. Right.
Yeah.
But like the skills that I took, I've taken more from when I was coaching high school kids into these businesses than anything else I've done. Because like, in a lot of ways, being a CEO and a leader of a company is you're coaching.
It's all communication, leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you do when you go and pitch and try to gain capital from, these investors. Yeah, that makes sense. One of my questions was, how did you bring filmmaking into your businesses? So it's funny you said that. I'm just going to cross that shit off real fast.
Yeah. But I think it's like, there just wasn't much. The only thing that did come from it was, as a documentary filmmaker, you're you got to be really resourceful in multiple different areas, right? You're kind of coming up with the story. You're trying to find any sort of financing there is, and then you're trying to just get a distribution for the product and then market the whatever the film is. So in a lot of ways, it's a pretty entrepreneurial life being an independent filmmaker. So in a lot of ways, there was some of that, but when you're running a company and managing people, it's, at least that I don't think you could be ready for,
Sure. No, I get that. When did you stop playing sports, and when did this filmmaking thing start coming around, when you started to discover that maybe you're not going to be a pro surfer after all? How old were you?
Yeah, I was probably 18.
Oh, okay.
I
So
was probably
pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've always enjoyed, like I said, playing them, and as a spectator and a fan, I've always, sports has been the one probably consistent through my life all the way to now. But I think it just being realistic, you're like, I'm not really going to be doing what's the next best thing, especially when it comes to surfing, and that's making surf films. But I always really loved the idea of, when I was in middle school, I would say, we should start a t-shirt business, like me and my friends, and all that stuff was there, I never got excited about having jobs, which is probably why I got fired from multiple jobs from like 16 to 18. But I was always excited about doing my own thing. And, sometimes when you're getting started in that way with that kind of attitude, it rubs people the wrong way, right? They're like, kind of fall in line and go to school and get a job. And I was always just confident more.
Yeah. Was it like an authority thing that you had a problem with? Like, you didn't like people telling you what to do, and you just wanted to do whatever interested you. And that was that.
Yeah. And I think and like when somebody tells me, hey, if you don't go to college, you're going to be working at McDonald's till you're 35, I would say, well, fuck you. And now I'm really going to do it. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to proving you wrong. And I've had those kind of motivations all along the way. And in a lot of ways, like, I make them up too. Little things people say, or little things that happen, they kind of stick with me, and almost like an athlete in that way, right? The kind of the craziest ones, like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, the guys that are, when you're that competitive, and I'm in that kind of competitive mindset, you're kind of creating, conflicts to motivate you, which is, it's funny that people are celebrated for that in business and in athletics, but really that's not a rad quality, right? Like that's a very stressful life.
For sure. I'm from Chicago, so I grew up watching MJ. I mean, I was pretty young, but the best. And to find out from watching that new documentary, the Last Dance, I don't know if you saw that.
Fabulous.
That's got to be one of the greatest sports documentaries of all time.
I just told my wife that last night, that it's the best one ever made. Yeah,
I seriously think so. Yeah. It makes you want to run through a brick wall and go get to work and not stop. It's pretty intense. Yeah. But just to, hear kind of the mental, just like you said, the little scenarios that he would make up in his head to just go insane in a game. Is that something at your level right now? Is that stuff that you're still doing mentally, is playing these little scenarios, these little mind games?
Yeah, I'll hear things here and there, little slights. Even after all the success, I don't care about the success. I just hear the slight, and it'll stay there until I feel like I beat them, right? And whatever definition of that I have, I'll keep going until, like one of the first investor meeting I ever had for Saint Archer, I had my daughter was 3 years old and my oldest son was 6 months, and I'm swinging him in his little car seat, and I'm in this investor meeting. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I had no idea how to raise capital.
Yeah.
Um, and I had the deck, and he's looking at it and flips through it and then closes it, looks at me and goes, not only is this a horrible idea, you have absolutely no chance at making this successful. You don't have the ability to run a business. Close the deck, threw it in the trash. And in a lot of ways, like, that was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me in terms of business, because 3 years later, 4 years later, when I sold Saint Archer to the Forbes article and said, I was right, period. So, I mean,
That's
those,
incredible.
I'll hold on to those things for years, and think about them every day,
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think, but that type of stuff that stuff wears on you too, man. Like, it wears on you. Now I don't let it bother me as much, because I feel like I have less to prove, which has really just been a process for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of finally being proud of yourself and being content with what you've done. And then, you continue to go on because you just enjoy it, which is why I do it now. But still, when I hear things like, yeah, dude, and I could make them more dramatic. Like, I hear something and someone goes, yeah, I mean, I heard that thing's all right. In my head, they just said, fuck him. He sucks now. He's on the decline. And I'll spin it into I'll like, just, push myself over the edge.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah, but like you said, there's definitely a downside to that, and it can wear you out. But
for sure,
yeah. But still, I wasn't expecting that. But that's it's pretty funny. Getting back to the filmmaking really quick. How long were you a filmmaker, and was there a vision beyond that, or were you like living the dream and you're like, this is it, I'm good here?
No. I was a filmmaker from like 18, 19 all the way to about, I still am. I make all the films for our brands.
Wow.
I do. Everyone
That's
from
awesome.
Saint Archer to now, I've made every one of them. I would say, about 10 years, a little over 10 years. And my aspirations were be a feature film director. Yeah. I feel like I would have had a shot at it. It's funny now with these companies, now we have investors that are like, some of the more famous Hollywood folks going. We have owners of studios, and we have like the biggest agents and actors and I'm like, where the fuck were all you guys like 15 years ago?
Exactly.
So it's funny. It's like, it's kind of one of those things now that I wonder, if the next chapter would be me going back into filmmaking and kind of making movies again once I'm done with all these businesses. And now I know everybody there is to know. And I'm like, man, this was like the longest road possible to like being able to make movies in LA. But
yeah, well, now, like you said, you have all the connections you probably could need, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny that way.
That's so funny. What were some of your biggest projects that you were really proud of?
Yeah, I think the two that really were probably the biggest ones, I made a movie called Flow on the history of modern surfing, which was, Kelly Slater's life story and Tom Curran and Al Merrick, and that film did really well. And then we made a movie on this woman, Tara Dekitis, who was a pro snowboarder in the early 2000s. Made a movie on her life story that did really well too.
Yeah.
And those were, and then after that, I made a handful more. Made a movie on Todd Richards, who was a snowboarder from Massachusetts, and just like documentaries. But they did well in the film festivals, and ultimately that's what kind of led to music videos, like I said. And I think the natural step from there would have been, hopefully directing a feature film. But, the idea for Saint Archer kind of jumped in the middle of that.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So what was the tipping point? Because you said that was kind of a dream job, and you were feeling really good about it. And what kind of tipped you over to Saint Archer and made you leave the filmmaking stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I always ultimately wanted to do something with my friends, I think, and build a business. Like I said early on, middle school with the T-shirts and that whole deal, and it's always been there in the back of my mind, and wanting to do something bigger and build a business. That was always attractive. I was always attracted to business in so many different ways. And then I had the idea when a friend of mine was asked to invest in a tequila business and be an ambassador for it. And I suggested that he do beer instead, and the light bulb went off. And I said, how come there's never been a beer that's come from our culture, which is primarily rooted in skateboarding and surfing, but primarily skateboarding. I think, and then a lot of my friends were some of the best skaters in the world because of all the movies I've made, and best surfers in the world. And I knew I could kind of bring everybody together. And at that time, it wasn't, really common for people to just invest in businesses and kind of get equity. So Saint Archer really was a bit out of the box in that way, especially for companies that are outside of our like immediate culture of board decks and clothing and shoes and accessories, whatever. Alcohol was kind of on the fringe, but it was the one thing that everybody like universally was consuming.
Yeah.
So it was really just taking the formulas of all the brands that our friends have built through the years and just applying it to an alcohol business. The only problem is I wasn't a brewer and I didn't know anything about beer, and I didn't know anybody in the beer business.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to do a craft brewery, but I don't know anything about anything. But how hard could it be? It was fucking really hard. But
well,
so yeah.
Yeah, I want to get into it. Why? Skateboarding, I'm not super deep into the culture, but I know how much influence they had on clothing and shoes and just so many different things. Why don't you think there was an alcohol company ever?
I think it was just outside the box. I think people that are, within skateboarding and surfing are just like, that's what they focus on. Right. And I think skateboarding is the biggest cultural needle mover there is. Skateboarding is insanely influential in so many different areas. And I think, I think companies had tried to make an impression on our culture, everything from Bud Light to Pabst, and all the Mexican beers. And it's just nobody cares, right? Like nobody cares. It's not authentic and it's not from us, right? That's the difference. And so, it was definitely a different model for the alcohol world. And for me, I knew I could build the brand and knew I could get people excited about it, but I had to find people to actually build a brewery and make beer and somehow raise $3 million to do that.
Right. Not knowing how to do that.
Or knowing what to even say to people, I mean,
I don't think a lot of people are even willing to take that risk, especially not knowing how to do something. I mean, people that are logical would immediately just, not even try. What made you really want to go for it, even though you didn't even know how to go about starting? Were you always just a resourceful guy that just would figure this shit out, and you were kind of born with that?
Yeah. I mean, and the simplest way to put it is yes, right? Like when I like something, like I didn't go to film school, right? And I just kind of figured out how to do that. And
Yep.
I think I just really believed in it and believed in myself. And I would have been a fan of Saint Archer.
Mm.
And I knew that there was something there. Like I would have consumed it. Um, and I think that's the biggest thing. That's kind of like the one thing people miss is, everybody asks like, how did you raise $3 million? And really there is no like magic sentence that I can give you.
Yeah.
It's really just, it's like a lot of it comes down to God-given personality.
Mm.
Like, do you have a way about you that, conveys a story and clearly and authentically to folks? And do they believe you? Like,
Mm.
do they just like flat out believe you? Are you a believable person?
Mm.
Like, do you inspire folks? Do you have that, natural, lead about you? You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like and I do. It's like one of the few gifts I've been given, I guess, is just, the ability to motivate folks to follow my vision and trust me.
Mm.
And I don't think that that's something that can be learned. But there's also examples of the sacrifices that I made. Like when I went home and told my wife I'm quitting making movies and we're moving to San Diego, and she supported that and said, we'll find us a place to live. And I mean, she doesn't say that, none of this happens, right?
Mm.
But I think when you sit in front of somebody and you tell them, hey, I just moved my family here, like your back's up against the wall. And when you're telling a story that, about this new business that you believe in, and you're like, I just moved my family here. I got 2 little kids. I have a wife. Like, I have to figure this out. And people are like, fuck, I got 20 grand. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're just believing in me. That's the thing is like, people want to sell their product, but dude, they're buying into you,
Mm.
right? Like no one that invested in Saint Archer knew anything about craft beer or the beer business in general. All of the companies that I've created since, they don't know anything about hard seltzer or canned cocktails, or they
Mm.
don't know anything about that shit. They just believe me.
Mm.
And, I think that's what I tell people that are in college and kind of going through business school or whatever they're trying to do. At the end of the day, they're not going to teach you shit at business school that you're going to apply to the real world of building a business. Maybe
Yeah.
like certain things, maybe like some processes, but they're not going to teach you how to do it. And I always tell them, take that time to really look yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Forget wanting to sound sexy by telling someone that you're an entrepreneur. Forget about all that.
Yeah.
Like, are you an employee? Are you a business owner that owns a business for 25 years and that's your career? Or are you a serial entrepreneur like I am? And it's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just, who are you?
Mm.
Like some people really excel as employees and go
Mm.
on to be insanely successful people. And some people are really successful owning and operating a single business. And then some
Mm.
people are really successful creating multiple businesses and, all these different things. But I think that's one thing that people miss. They listen to podcasts and they listen to this and that, or read this book and like saying, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. And I can't even tell you how many people say they're a fucking entrepreneur. I'm like, how many businesses have you built? None. They haven't done shit, and like maybe that's just not you. But I think in today's world of this kind of obsession with self-promotion, I think
Yeah.
people want to say the sexiest thing.
Yeah.
But, and like in a lot of ways, like podcasts and things like this, and they're not about like superstar employees who like started in the mailroom and then just ended up being the CFO. Dude, making, tons of money, insanely successful. Nobody tells that story,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, no one tells it.
Yeah. How did you know you were a serial entrepreneur? Was it because after Saint Archer, once it sold, you were on to the next thing, and that was like you kind of just knew you had this thing, you crushed it out of the park, and now it's you had to get that hit again almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think when I noticed it was when the money hit my account, I didn't feel anything. I
Mm,
wasn't like proud, or I didn't even really react. I actually noticed it in the moment. Like you're not even, and no smile, no nothing.
mm,
And I think in that moment realized that a lot of the reason why I wanted to sell Saint Archer was to see how I would feel. I
mm,
wanted to see if I would be motivated by the money. Are you motivated by building a business? What are you motivated by? Like what gets you going? And for me, the money had nothing to do with it. It's really just to compete at the
mm.
highest level and build brands to compete with the biggest brands. And
Yeah.
when a lot of people make money and then they realize who they are. They go, dude, I'm good. Just bought a nice house. My family's good. We got a couple nice cars. We go on vacation. I'm done. For
Mm,
me, I didn't give a shit about any of that. I just wanted to compete again. And
mm.
so that's all it was. I just wanted to keep going and building businesses that had state.
Do you think you didn't feel like you were so stunned by the money because deep down you knew it was going to happen anyways?
Yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of people ask, are you so surprised that this has happened and like, it's hard to say, because it can sound insanely arrogant and there's no arrogance. It was really just confidence. Like I always knew I would be successful at something.
Yeah.
Like I knew that I was going to do something. I might not have had all the answers, but I knew that I would not be just like a run of the mill dude that works 9 to 5 and punches the
Mm,
clock. And those are all my best friends.
mm,
Like it just wasn't me. Right. I have
mm,
the utmost respect for that, but it wasn't me. And I knew it wasn't me. I always wanted something more and like a bigger challenge and do something much bigger. And
mm.
so yeah, when we sold St. No, I wasn't surprised. That was the plan from day one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
love
it
that.
didn't like go. It wasn't like, oh man, they called out of nowhere. Holy shit, we're gonna sell it. No, and that's the thing. It's like you go raise capital, you're taking other people's money. You got to tell them something that's going to happen, right? You're not
Yeah.
taking $3 million of people's money and going, yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. Like, well, it's you can't take people's money and then be surprised at an exit, right? Like that should be your plan from minute one.
Yeah. Is there,
So,
I know, getting investors, giving away equity, that's like a very tried and true way of starting a business and getting this thing going. I mean,
mhm.
are there cases that you know of where people just decide to not go that route and try to do it without giving away any equity? Is that something
Mhm.
that you've seen? And
Oh, sure. Yeah,
yeah,
just for me, my business style is very aggressive and fast paced, where
okay,
for a lot of folks, it's not comfortable to raise $3 million or $10 million or whatever it is, right? Like
yeah,
that creates a lot of anxiety, and rightfully so. You have a lot of people's money on your shoulders.
mm,
For me, that's never bothered me. Um, because I want to go fast and build a huge business.
mm,
But I think if you want to hang on to it and be more methodical and you're cool with it taking 10 to 15 years, then yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. And there's people that build those businesses and they become very valuable and an exit happens every day.
yeah,
For me, that's just not my style. My style is to raise money, bring on as many, celebrities and influencers that I'm friends with that, can promote them and just create more brand awareness. Like I think Ashland or, Villager would be successful with or without them. but they just speed everything up. So when you have millions of eyeballs on your brand overnight, it just speeds up, the rate of sale and hopefully and all those types of things.
Yeah. I hear a lot that raising capital is probably the shittiest part of the whole experience. Why is that? Is that just the stress and anxiety of having someone's money? Is it just the process of like getting rejected all the time, or why is that so just fucking shitty?
Yeah, I think for me it might be different. Like, dude, honestly, I haven't experienced a lot of rejection. I've raised $50 million in the last 10 years. If you're raising that much, you're probably not getting rejected a lot.
Yeah.
But the hardest thing for me is just personally, I just don't like it. I don't really like asking people for things. And in a weird way, sometimes I wonder if that's why I've been so successful at it, is because, maybe the attitude that I give off is like, this is what I'm doing. I'd be stoked to have you a part of it. But if you don't want to, I don't give a fuck either.
Take it or leave it.
It's not, I think people with me, if you had investors on the line, I think they would tell you like, Josh gives you the authentic story and it's kind of like, he's kind of doing you a favor by letting you be a part of it and not like, and I'm not even purposely trying to do that. I think I'm just so passionate about what I'm doing and very confident in the success I think we'll have that I think people just go, well, dude, this dude's going to do it with or without me. So, shit, we should probably jump in.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't like it. I don't like I fucking hate raising cap. I don't like it. It's not, that's not my natural mind. I can like do it and obviously have some success at it, but I'd rather just be home with my family and being quiet. Like when there's functions, I'm the dude that's in the corner, like saying goodbye and not telling anybody.
Right.
So I would rather not. I'm not like when people go, yeah, it's a perfect networking. Networking's fucking ridiculous. It's like you're a used car salesman, and that's not my vibe.
So you think raising capital is like networking, very similar?
Yeah, I try and make it way more personal. Like I try and, nowadays I've been, Wes, our vice president, he'll put together a night to where, all these different folks will come and they'll kind of hear me talk about the brand. And, I'm there for a few hours and then I leave. And most of the time people put money in, but like, I try and make as much as I can, everything one-on-one, right? Like I don't like go to places to try and meet people who might want to invest. I don't do anything like that. Everything has been like a friend of a friend. Like, dude, Jared Goff, the now quarterback of the Lions. Jared was like, we were talking and he's like, dude, I'm stoked. I want to be involved. Let's do it. And he's all, who else are you thinking? And I had just seen like a little piece on Cody Bellinger and I was like, what do you know about Cody? Blah, blah. You know him? Like, what's his deal? And he's like, dude, you guys would love each other. You should hit him up. Like, I'm going to hit him up and I'll tell him you're going to call him and he'll be stoked. And then, I hit up Cody and we hit it off. And dude, that's how it's happened.
Yeah.
It's
that's
like,
amazing.
That's how it's gone for everybody. Like all the money I've raised, it's been no venture capital. It's been dudes like me and you.
Wow.
Like just like just regular folks.
Yeah. Just personal conversation. Let's go, hang out. Yeah. I love that. So, okay. So you got rejected your first investor meeting, you said, right? I know you were playing mind games with yourself after that moment, but how did you pivot? What did you change? Was there like something that you felt like you did wrong in that moment? Because the people that we have listening to this podcast are pitching themselves to brands like Archer Village, all these brands to get hired to do film work and design work and freelancers and things. So what did you start doing differently that you found out in that first meeting? Was it just the person that was just a big fuck no? Or was it something maybe you were doing that you could have improved on?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime repetition, you're going to get more polished, right? But I didn't change anything. I just kind of stuck to my guns and was like, no, man, this is it. Like, this is going to be a good thing. And I don't care what he says. And like, I think, but I've taken suggestions, I mean, all along the way from multiple folks. So I've never been like, I have a small group of friends that, mostly my wife, who has a lot of input on the businesses and decisions that I make. So I ask a lot of people, not a lot, but a handful of folks that are closest to me, who I love, that, give me honest opinions, and that's kind of as far as I go, as far as like, changing certain things, and personally and professionally.
Sure.
I'm always trying to get better as a person first and foremost, because I think if you're kind of not, content with yourself, like I think you'd have a real hard time.
How much, getting back to the transition from filmmaking to using capital, starting Saint Archer, how much anxiety and fear did you have during that transition? Was that just a huge shock to the system, or were you just so focused because, like you said, you were putting yourself back against the wall and the only direction you can go is forward? Was that a tough time for you and the kid? I mean, to do that with kids and a wife, like for me, it was a lot easier. It's just myself. I live with my girlfriend. We don't have a house. We rent. There's not as much stuff to lose. It's very easy for us to rebuild, start over. You know what I mean? So for you, at maybe a later age, having kids and things, how difficult was that for you? All right.
Yeah,
fair.
It wasn't. The honest to God answer is, I've never said, what if this doesn't work out? Or I just don't think like that. And I'd tell you if I did, like I would tell you if I was scared or there was anxiety, because I have all that stuff in my personal life. I've dealt with anxiety and mild depression. I've dealt with all that stuff. But it's weird because it doesn't translate into my business life. I have like that mechanism doesn't exist of fear in business. I have none. And I don't know why. I'm like, why didn't I get that like personally? Would have made life so much easier.
Yeah. Give me some of that.
Yeah, I just have never had that fear mechanism and just have my foot on the gas. But in my personal life, like I said, much, much different. So maybe that's been the counterbalance. I don't know. But you would think if I had those, personality traits, it would carry over to having anxiety and maybe holding back with business. But for some reason, not. I don't know.
Do you think because you didn't know what you were doing in the beginning, maybe it was maybe an ignorance of some sort where you didn't know, right?
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of excitement too, like it was exciting, like you're doing something you don't know, like every day was a challenge, and every day was, I think if anything, maybe it hasn't, but if anything, maybe the anxiety and those types of things would come in as you've been successful, right? Because then a lot of people are trying to replicate that success. And, when people invested in me with Saint Archer, they were like, well, maybe we'll get like a couple free t-shirts and some free beer out of it. Now, now people are investing me, trying to like take them to retirement. Right. So it's a completely different set of expectations. And, fortunately for me, I've been able to kind of block that out and focus on, what the goals are. And it's hard though. The noise is much louder now, right? There's, when you're successful, it's funny, when you're successful, people want to give you their opinion more often because their own insecurities, they want to like feel like they want to go to your level or bring you down to their level. Whether it's brought on by yourself or not, like I never ask people, and they want to, bring you down to their level.
Yeah, they want to have some kind of input and make
For
themselves
sure.
feel better.
Always.
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah,
Always.
I get that. I think kind of staying in that time period, a lot of people are afraid to make the wrong decision and kind of let themselves evolve. It sounds like you wore a lot of hats. You had a lot of different jobs. Did you get something from each and every single one of those jobs that you feel like supported you and got you where you are now, or not really?
Probably not. Obviously, filmmaking, yes, because all of the friends I met through those years were ultimately, a majority of them were investors in Saint Archer. So I mean, that was a huge deal. I mean, everything I did, from when I was 18 years old, was kind of the story that needed to be built, to get to Saint Archer. So
Right.
that's what's funny is when people go, "Yeah, it was overnight." I'm like, not really.
Hmm.
Like there was a lot that was not like paved the way for that to happen.
So you got your 3 million, and I don't know, just from what you've told me so far, I'm going to say that wasn't a big shock. Maybe not.
it,
Um,
it kind of. I mean, anytime you get that much money, you're like, wow, like we actually
yeah.
did it. Holy shit.
Okay. So
Like
you're
yeah,
human. You are human.
I am. I
All
am.
right.
It was like, I was expecting it, but still, like that's a lot of money,
Yeah.
and then you're building a brewery from scratch. Like it was it
Yeah.
was cool, man. I
Yeah.
didn't take any of it for granted.
When did you know it was special? When sales started coming on pretty quickly, or was it just the team that you were building? What was that thing that kind of
Yeah,
sparked that you were like, wow,
yeah.
I got something?
Honestly, obviously the sales in the beginning, everything started going, and we put together a really, really amazing team. Um, but I saw somebody wearing a Saint Archer shirt at Disneyland,
Wow.
and I went, hmm, this is like maybe something pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was like 2 months in, and I was like, I still see people today, 10 years later, I see someone walking down the street with a St. Archer hoodie on. I'm all, who the fuck is that guy? Like, I
Yeah.
still feel like I should know everybody that's wearing them.
Do you go up
But
to
it
that
was,
person and be
yeah,
like,
well,
yo,
yo,
I'm
dude,
the
a lot of
fucking owner,
times,
dude?
a lot. No, my kids do it for me. Unfortunately, now they'll like, we were at Costco a few months back, and we saw this gal putting Ashland into her cart, and of course my boys are like, that's my dad's, right? And she just thinks I'm nuts. Like, what do you mean that's my dad? Your dad drinks that much? He calls it his own. Like, what's wrong with him, right?
Yeah.
But my kids are good at that.
I think a lot of people use the excuse that an industry is saturated, and so they won't even bother trying. You see it in the YouTube space. Oh, I'm not going to start a YouTube channel. Everyone's doing it. All type physical products, digital, everywhere.
Sure,
Obviously, you've disrupted industries that were quote unquote saturated.
sure.
What would you say to someone that says, "Oh, that's too saturated. I'm not going to bother." What would you say to someone like that?
I mean, that's clearly just like that's an excuse, right?
Yeah.
There's so many examples of folks that have debunked that theory of craft beer was as saturated as it gets, but we created something that was different,
Mm.
and something that I just liked, and in a lot of ways, like what you like and what you're interested in and like what you have to say, there's probably a lot of other folks out there that like it too, like,
Mm.
I mean, dude, look at Tesla, for Christ's sake. I mean, the
Yeah.
car industry is as saturated as it gets, and here he comes with a car that is something that he liked, and
Mm.
the list goes on and on and on. But I think for me, I just created a beer that was aesthetically pleasing to me, with a story
Yeah.
that I would gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And just like looking at you could look at anything and go, how could I make this better? Or how could I make this more like tailored to what I like?
Yeah.
and talk about the things that I like and tell the stories that I like. And I think there's more opportunity out there than people think, because as consumers, we all want to grab onto stuff that's authentic.
Right.
Like I want to gravitate towards brands that like are authentically telling a story and I believe, right? I'm way more likely to buy that than the mill bullshit.
Yeah. Is that your focus, more of like the branding, how people feel about something than the
Yeah.
actual product itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm best at, is building the brands, and then, putting folks around me that I trust possible.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole focus is the brands.
How many businesses do you have in total right now?
Well, I've started, since Saint Archer, seven.
Seven.
Seven since Saint Archer. But right now we have, I'm a co-founder in an alcohol distribution business here called Scout, and brewery called Harlan, and a wine business called Claxton. And then I own Ashland, and I own a company called Villager Spirits, which is a canned cocktail business.
Wow. And how much focus? I mean, when are you ready to move to the next project? Do you wait until, it gets to a certain level where you've, created a team around it? When do you kind of move on? Have you gotten just so fucking good at it now where you just have all the resources where you can just kind of, implement the formula and get on to the next? How do you know when
Over
you're
the
ready to
last,
move on?
I think, it's not just me, it's everybody involved. Is everybody ready? Now I have a team around me of like the folks that I trust and are that I like to be with every day, and now kind of creating an LLC that will hold all of the brands that I create, which is really exciting. And we have a great team in the field, and basically the best of the best. And so now we can create brands, very affordably, and plug them into our pipeline, which is really exciting. So I think you kind of got to go, because for me it's easy. I go, let's put out a new one. Let's put out a new one. Let's put out, right? Like I could keep going, but it's really the team going, like, do they have the bandwidth right now to take on a new brand? Is everybody excited about it? So it's a collaborative thing. It's not just me. If it was just me, I would put out one every 2 months.
Yeah.
But it's the team.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You think you would ever start a company that's outside of, some sort of beverage? Because it sounds like it's all beverages, right? Some sort of beverage.
Yeah. Alcohol is really, what's funny is, because I'm not really that big of a drinker.
Oh, that's funny.
Alcohol fits my personality the best. It's, you can control a lot of it. You can go up and down the street and sell your brand into, various bars and restaurants, and liquor stores, and, independent grocery. Whereas with other industries, you can't do that. Non-alcoholic beverage, you can't do that. Food, you can't do that. I have no interest in clothes or, and those types of things are, there's already awesome brands. Like imagine doing a clothing brand with all my friends. It's like, dude, Supreme already exists. Like there's already, they already did it. James nailed it. And, the guys at Kith nailed it, and all the different, board brands and skateboarding, they all nailed it. Like there's nowhere else to go, in my opinion. So I think in those industries, like being disruptive that's a different ball game, man. You have such great brands. You got to do something that's very unique and different. That's an uphill battle.
But it's possible.
Not something. Always, there's new brands that come out all the time that you're like, holy shit, where did that come from? But it takes something special. But But yeah, I don't think so. I think this is it. Like I said, if I was going to do anything else, it would be completely different, and maybe go back to making movies. And
Yeah.
my wife has some things that she wants to do, and I would be
Mhm.
stoked to just support her and kind of be in the background and let her do her thing and help wherever I can. And that
Yeah.
sounds fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great place to be in. How much
Yeah.
support has she had? I know probably just an insane amount, especially after just saying, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do this without even
Yeah.
any hesitation. I feel like, I mean, she's been there
Yep.
since the beginning for you.
Yep. Without sounding too cliched, like in every sense of the phrase, and this wouldn't have happened without her.
Mm.
So, um, the support and, um, I can't even say that I would have been that supportive.
Mm.
I think when you're not presented with a challenge in which you have to go outside your comfort zone and support somebody unconditionally, it's easy to say what you would or would not do,
Mm.
right? When you, like your girlfriend, if you don't feel like you're presented with the opportunity, it's easy to say, I'd follow her anywhere. Yeah, I love her. Well, that's because you
Yeah.
don't think she's moving to Philly,
Right.
right? But then when
Yeah.
she comes home and goes, hey, I just got a job in Philly, let's go. Are you really going to be down?
Mm.
Like for real? Or were you just saying that to make yourself sound good for the last 6 months? Right. And
Right.
I think a lot of people, when push comes to shove, and their livelihood could be affected, it's funny how supportive they actually are, which in a lot of cases is not much.
Yeah.
And so for Janine to just out of nowhere go, yeah, let's go, with 2 kids and like the only family and friends we have, like that's special, man. Like
Crazy.
that's just not normal. And in a lot of ways, like a lot of business, a lot of dreams die with your spouse, male or female,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Like you say, this is what I want to do. And, 9 times out of 10, I think 9 women out of 10 in that scenario would have said, you're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. Fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
like, how could you want to like risk everything we have for our family? Blah, 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 blah. Right. And I fortunately got the one that not only said, let's go, never said, what if it doesn't work out?
Mm.
What if like this happens or this or this or this? Always fucking believed that I would do it wholeheartedly and unconditionally, which is
Mm.
that's rare, right?
Yeah.
That's
Zero
rare.
doubt.
And she zero doubt, and she's been the biggest. She's the kind of, she has her fingerprints all over every brand that, people don't see that. I get all the credit, and,
Mm.
they don't see what she does, but like the support and the opinions and
Mm.
I couldn't have done it. Wouldn't
Yeah.
have happened. Yeah,
Gotta have a woman's touch.
dude, for sure.
I kids, and I guess I would call myself a kid. I'm 28. I'm still a kid. We're afraid of relationships, I think, as an entrepreneur, because of what you just said. It's like, they're
Mhm.
going to slow us down, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, whoever. Would you fear, if you had your businesses now and you were single? I mean, is that something that you would fear, is getting into a relationship? Or no, that might be something hard to answer.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hold me back. I think if anything, if you're in a situation where you think it would, you're probably in a bad situation, right?
Yeah.
But then there's all the other challenges, like we went through building these businesses and being married with kids, or, even just, being in a relationship. It's challenging. It's very straining on a relationship to, be an entrepreneur and, or start up your own business, or even go be an employee and you're working 20 hours a day, right? Like it's never easy. And there's never like, oh, if I have a relationship, there's no way it's going to happen. It's like, you just need to go fucking make it happen regardless of, I mean, that's ridiculous, right? Like
Mm.
that's just an excuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's the thing. The funny thing is, man, like through all this, like the only difference between me and everybody else in a lot of ways is I just went out and did it.
Yeah.
Never made excuses, and was like, I'm doing a craft beer business, and I did it. I'm doing
Yeah.
a hard seltzer. I'm doing it. I want to do a can. Just go out and fucking do it.
Mm. It's really that simple, isn't it?
It is, man. It's not
Yeah.
like, dude, you want to go raise money? Like, jump into the fucking deep end and go do it.
Yeah.
Go do it with passion and authenticity, and people will see that. And then people will lead you to somebody else. And then that persistence and hard work and just competitive drive and all of those things, like you'll get there. But like the
Yeah.
first thing, you just have to fucking do it. And
Mm.
that's why most things never happen. I always tell people, you get a business off the ground, dude, congrats. Nobody even does that. And then if you create a business that people actually give a shit about, you just did what 98% cannot.
Yeah.
And then, you take something to an exit, you're in the, 1% of the 1%. But it's, to just creating a business in itself, like people just need to go out there and do it. It's not as hard as what everybody thinks it is,
Mm.
and I don't read any of the self-help business bullshit books. I don't do any of that. I never have, never read one.
Mm. I love that.
Just go
I fucking
just
love
go
that.
out and just like, I don't listen to podcasts. I don't get motivated by any of this shit. Like I'm not inspired by any other alcohol brands. Like I'm not. Just, dude, go out and do it, and don't let anything stand in your. Get off the fucking gram and go do it.
Yeah. I
Like
love it.
dude, it's just a different generation too, though, man. It's a different time.
Yeah. I mean, you see so many people preaching about, reading every day and just consuming and consuming and consuming. And the more books you read, the smarter you're going to be, and et cetera, et cetera. I got to be, this is such a fresh, interpretation or just a fresh answer to kind of hear that and know that, you don't have to be like every schmuck on Instagram telling you what to do. Oh, you got to read this book and do this. And,
I mean, dude, straight, that's all fucking bullshit.
yeah,
And the dudes that are saying all that shit, they haven't done a goddamn thing.
yeah,
They
I
just
love
like it. Just they haven't. It's like I didn't read. I never went to college, and I don't read business books. So what
it.
does that tell you? I mean, that it's like I have a vision for what I want to do, and I'm not, like I said, like I don't read the alcohol trade websites. I don't do any of that shit, man.
Mm.
I look up, Philly sports in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and I go to work. You know, I don't look at what other brands are doing. I don't give a fuck what other brands are doing. Because if we perform at the level that we're supposed to perform at, then we're gonna win.
Yeah. I will say, you can't do it alone. And you need some
No.
type of team. You need support. Yeah, you don't have to read a
Yep.
book, but you can't do it alone.
Nope.
Who are those people for you, either in the businesses or outside of the businesses, that were
Yeah.
huge fucking support systems for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's you can't. I mean, I know all of the things that I'm not good at, which is a lot of stuff.
Mm.
And then I know the couple things that I'm good at, and I focus on those, and I know my lane, and that's kind of that. But for me, yeah, I've had, numerous of the best employees, some that are still with me, some that aren't. Um, and then outside of this, fortunately for me, like my best friend Kelly, he works here, and I have the utmost trust and love respect for him, and having that support day to day is huge here, like right next to my office.
Mm.
And then, Wes, who's the vice president of Ashland, like he's one of my closest friends in the world. And like we vacation with our families, and like having that kind of unconditional love closest to me inside of the business is a huge deal, man. It's a really
Mm.
big deal knowing that people are protecting you and your business, unconditionally to the utmost degree is a really big deal. And
Mm.
so like for me, I would have never been able to do it. There's it. I probably, less than most have taken on, not as many roles as you typically would in the beginning. I've just hired all of the best people.
Yeah.
So like there's people that can take credit for a lot of the things I've done, Jeff Hansen, who came from beer, like taught me the beer business. He
Mm.
now is the CEO of Scout, our alcohol distribution business. I mean, he could take just as much credit for Saint Archer in a lot of ways, right?
Mm.
So there's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people like that that can take a lot of credit for these businesses and the success we've had, for sure.
Yeah. Have you had any mentors along the way, or was it just the people that you were hiring that already had previous experience in this industry?
Yeah, I've never had a mentor. I just kind of learned as I went along from the people that I respect,
Yeah.
just little bits and pieces. But that's not really my personality to like ask somebody to like show me the ropes,
Mm.
right? Like that's not my vibe.
Or even just the people that have been there, done that, and just kind of created relationships, friendships.
I mean, I have respect for the people that have done everything before. Me for sure. Our distributor with Saint Archer was Stone. Nobody has paved the way for craft beer since the mid to late '90s than them.
Mm.
They paved the way for breweries like Saint Archer
Mm.
and so many others, especially here in California. They just, kind of learning little pieces from them and what they did. And, when I do get the chance to go out to lunch with somebody like Steve Wagner, who's their founder, trying to listen as much as possible. I don't say much in
Yeah.
those situations. I just try and listen. And I think that's just a huge deal. But I think, a lot of people are looking for that. Like, oh yeah, I just want a mentor to like, again, it's like one more thing to kind of slow you down. Like, you don't
Mm.
need a mentor, man. Just get out there and fucking figure it out.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I think people take things just way too
Yeah.
seriously
They
almost. They try
overthink
to,
it.
yeah. Yeah.
Overthink it.
I mean, I've
Yep.
been guilty of that plenty of times. And,
It's easy to
there's,
do. It's easy to do.
yeah. Yeah. And people like you and some other people in my circle just like remind me to just stay in my own fucking lane and just keep
Yep.
working on the vision and stop getting so
Keep
distracted.
pushing.
I mean, we're
Yep.
so distracted. It's such a distraction type of world we live in because of social
It is.
and
That's for
phones.
sure.
And
That's for sure. Yep.
I mean, it's pretty wild. I'm obviously it doesn't affect you. What about what about work-life balance? I know you've been asked that a few times. Is that even a thing that exists to get to where you are today? A work-life balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, through time, it was really hard in the beginning. My wife and kids know that they're the priority.
Mhm.
And I think once that trust is in place, Janine knows that I'm only somewhere because I have to be, and I'll be there the shortest amount of time possible. Right. Like
Mhm.
if you have me for an hour, I'm there for an hour,
Mhm.
and like they know that as soon as I can, I'm coming home.
Mhm.
Whether that's, locally at work, or that I could be in New York, or I could be in Europe, I'm always coming home right when I can. And that's just years of, seeing that and knowing that they're important and showing that and taking the time always to put them first.
Mm.
But Janine also knows when we go on vacation to Hawaii or wherever we're going, I'm going to work. Like
Mm.
she knows I'm going to be on the phone. She knows I'm going to be doing emails and do it. Like that's what it is,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Like she just knows that's part of the gig. And I try and slow it down a little bit more when we're on the road,
Hmm.
but I'm still going to be checking in with everybody and dealing with things as they come up. And she's never like, yeah, don't do this, or like, you're going to go for 5 days and not check your phone. She knows that's just not, I like it, like
Yeah.
I like it. Like, I'm not doing it because I have to. I really enjoy it. And I enjoy hearing how things are going. I enjoy the whole process.
Yeah.
Um, so she, we've been doing this long enough that she knows, it's
Yeah.
pointless to tell me, hey, you're not going to be on the phone for the next 4 days. She fucking knows that's not happening.
Right. Yeah. It
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah.
that's more of like a work-life integration where you're
Yeah.
on vacation, yes, but the
Yeah.
first 2 hours of the day you're on the computer, you're on the phone, etc. Then you're going and playing with the
Yeah.
kids. Then you might come back, take a call, whatever.
And that's everyday life for me in a lot of ways, like
Right.
I'm super available. I take my kids to every sporting event. I don't miss anything. Janine and I go out to dinner. Like, it's like, it's much more realistic to go, hey, when you're out to dinner with your wife, don't be on the phone.
Mm.
Like, leave it in your pocket. Like, there's nothing happening in the next hour that you need to like text somebody back.
Mm.
Right. Like, when I'm at my son's water polo game, there's nothing that's happening that's going to make me check my phone and miss what's going on. Right. Like, those
Yeah.
things are much more realistic goals. And I do all that, like
Yeah.
when we're all out together and we go to the movies or we go out to dinner as a family or whatever, like, my phone's nowhere near me.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. You're flipping the business switch off. You're flipping on the personal switch, and
Yep.
you're flipping these things on and
On
off
and off.
constantly.
Yep.
Yeah. I
Yep.
love that. I love that. All right. I got a few more questions because I don't want to take
Yep.
up too much of your time, but we've I'm definitely starting to get an idea of how you work and what's important and what's not. Just for the people listening, if you had to start over from scratch and rebuild a business, what are those key pivotal things that you need to take care of step by step if you were to start over completely from scratch? What kind of are those pivotal things that you need to
I
take care
mean,
of?
God, there's nothing, depending on what you want to do, but there's nothing, like I've said, there's nothing more important than just making that decision to go.
Mm.
And then once you dive in, all the answers will come from that, right? Once you kind of make up your mind and you're disciplined, you're going to figure out what to do next. Like, right.
Mm.
You want to open up a hair salon. You go, nope, I'm doing it. Okay. Then every day you're going to say, I'm going to go find a place to rent. I'm going to talk to the landlord. I'm going to, figure out how much it costs to do this. I'm going to try and get a loan from my parents. I'm going to try and right. Like, you're going to start making progress. And I think the only thing that I would probably say, and then that varies for each business, right? If you want to go build a brewery, you're going to need to like start talking to people raising capital, and you should probably go talk to an attorney about setting everything up correctly to protect yourself, and all those types of things, right? But I think the only thing that I could say is like, just get ready for an emotional, time. I think
Mm.
that's the one thing I would have said to myself, like, you got to get ready. It was the hardest 2 years of my marriage was those 2 years of doing Saint Archer,
Mm.
and navigating through the emotions that I had and how hard it was on Janine. It was really hard, man. Those
Yeah.
days where, she's upset and, for whatever reasons, and like, you're going to work anyway. You
Mm.
have to go, and like, you can't like turn it off. So that's what you're signing up for. Like, you're signing up for to make it hard around everyone around you. And then you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Like,
Mm.
that takes a certain kind of person.
Mm.
right? Like that, are you the kind of person that when you're, and rightfully so, if you are, like if your wife is crying and doesn't want you to leave, do you go anyway? Or do
Mm.
you stay and console her and miss work and miss whatever responsibilities you have, and then you keep doing that, and you're doing it right, you're making it hard on somebody that you care about, and
Mm.
that's a really tough place to be, man. Like
Yeah.
that's like I never wanted to hurt her, make things hard on her, and hard on the kids, and um, but that's what I signed up for. It's not necessarily what they signed up for, but it's what I signed up for, and then you got to get yourself through that.
Yeah.
That's hard stuff. Really hard.
How have you changed as a person throughout this journey? Did you have to
Mm-hmm.
become someone totally different and level up to match the vision that you were trying to go for? Or did you feel like you were already that type of person? Because with me, every time I get to that next level, I have had to become that next level as a person, as an individual. And growing is it can be extremely uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why so many people stay where they are, is
Mm-hmm.
because of that comfort of
Mm-hmm.
growing. Where do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you had to step up and become that next level of Josh Landon?
Yeah, I think it was personally. I think finally you can't really, like I said before, like when the growth personally of being content and with who I am, and like kind of like the person that I am. Um, I think then once you kind of get that, you really, you know, love yourself, even though it kind of sounds cheesy sometimes because so many people say that now, but it's kind of true. Like once you accept who you are and try and get better though, and like kind of keep progressing as a person, and
Mm.
maturing as a person, I think that's where the growth comes in business, right? Then you can deal with things much more calmly and succinctly and clearly, and but until you kind of settle with yourself, there's always going to be this angst. And I think when there's that angst, then everything is much more emotional, and you're probably a bit more stunted. And so for me, it's just been a lot of work of just kind of trying to figure out how to get more comfortable with myself. And
Mm.
it's probably a lifelong process for folks.
Yeah.
And I think it just comes with age too. If you're a self-aware person, and people can critique you, and you can not get defensive and just kind of soak it in and accept it, and try and get
Mm.
better from it. Like a lot of people don't want to hear anything, any sort of constructive criticism in general, anything like that. Whereas
Yeah.
it doesn't really bother me. My wife is constantly, saying, look at it this way, or try and react this way, or maybe do this. And I always take it to heart and try and incorporate it. And
Mm.
and if you can be like a better person, you're going to be a better leader in business.
Yeah. Did you always know what your weaknesses were and knew exactly who to hire to make those the overall
One
business
thousand
a
percent.
strength? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
not
that's just
even. Yeah,
self-awareness. Just
yeah.
self-awareness.
I mean, I'm not good at anything organizational. Like I'm not organized when it comes to business. I
Yeah.
don't. I don't. I don't like the day-to-day management of people. I have a hard time with all of those types of things, like the nuances, and really being in the weeds with things in business. I don't have that in
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm.
Um, I don't have I'm not good at being behind a desk for 8 hours a day. I don't have the attention span for that. And so
Yeah.
I think, yeah, when you got to find those people that are really good at those things. That's the thing, is because of people's egos, they try and convince themselves that they need to do everything. And that's just an
Yeah.
ego thing.
Yeah. For sure. What do you since you know your strengths, you know what you're good at. What do you do now? What's your zone of genius? What are you working on? Um, what are you doing day to day that is improving your businesses that you love to do?
Yeah, it's constantly pushing the brands forward, coming up with new things to talk about and release into the market, and staying connected with investors and wholesalers, and figuring out, ways to grow. And that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
I'm really ingrained in the brand side. So I'm constantly working on that, but like, you need to keep things fresh and evolving all the time. So that's pretty much all I'm thinking about. And then, thinking about creating new brands, and looking at which categories are doing well, and, always thinking about how to just keep pushing forward, and staying aggressive. And, do we need to hire people in these regions? What holes do we have in the staff? Like, all that kind of stuff is pretty much daily ongoing thing.
Yeah, for sure. All right. One last question before I let
Yeah.
you go. And I ask this pretty much at the end of every episode, but because, you've established an amazing amount of wealth for yourself. You've got your businesses, you've got on paper, a dream life, if you will.
Mhm.
I'm curious, first of all, what is your dream day? What if you could describe like the perfect day, what does
Mhm.
that look like? And did it change throughout each
Mhm.
level of success, or has it stayed
Mhm.
the same for you? What's a dream day for you? Like the perfect day?
Yeah, pretty much. We get pretty close to that. I enjoy waking up and having coffee, and, reading about my favorite sports teams, and maybe go for a swim. And I enjoy talking about the brands. But then mostly I just love being with my friends and family, watching my son play water polo, and then maybe having a barbecue and a couple cocktails with my wife and our best friends. And
Yeah.
that's pretty good, man. Like, I'm like I'm a pretty simple guy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need a lot of stuff. And there's definitely certain things that I like, but pretty simple. I don't need to do like extravagant vacations, and like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a flashy person.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're doing whatever makes you happy, and what makes me happy is being with friends and family, and kind of just cruising,
Yeah. No, I
like
feel you.
having fun. And yeah, just but like all these brands, like I would do it for free, man. Like, I
Mm.
I I love it. I love everything about it. It's stressful, and there's definitely times I want to throw my phone out of the fucking window in my car, but I love it. Like, I love it. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah. I like asking that question because most of the time when people
Yeah.
respond, even at not at your level of success yet, not at that financial level, especially, you don't need a certain amount of finance to live out that dream day. And for a lot of
No.
people, they're not doing it, and they can be doing
No.
it right now. And
Every
that would
day. Yeah.
also improve their quality of life and
Yeah.
improve the products and business that they're working on too.
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
Anyway, anyways, Josh, thank you for this, man. Where can people follow you? What's the brand that you want people to check out the most right now, and where can people see what you're doing?
Yeah. Ashland Hard Seltzer is our Instagram, and Villager Spirits is our canned cocktail Instagram. And it's the best way to keep up. I wish we could make enough to like be all over the country. We can't even make it out of Southern California right now. So,
Really?
um, yeah, it's insane, man.
Wow.
It's insane. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, those are the best places.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being part of this. And I know the people that are listening are going to get a ton from this, especially because of how distracted this world is, and just kind of hearing the things that you had to say. It just simplified everything. I think it's going to be a fresh perspective and give people a lot to think about. And yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Awesome, man.